Hey guys, I'm Micah Winkelspecht. I am the CEO and founder of GEM. The title of today's talk is Bringing the Next Billion Consumers to the Decentralized Economy. But first, before I talk about that, I just want to give you a little bit of background on GEM and who I am. GEM is actually, it was started in LA 5 years ago, almost to the day. Actually, I was a one-man shop back then as a software developer, and I went down to Costa Rica. And I just started coding by myself, and I was working on early open source implementations of wallets for Bitcoin. The code that's on that screen there ended up getting deployed to power Coinbase's wallets for the first couple of years, and a bunch of other early exchanges and products like Purse.io and other companies in the space. But we've been building blockchain infrastructure in the space for the last 5 years. I've been really privileged in this role to live through multiple evolutions of this technology, starting from when we set out to essentially, destroy the central banks and create a new cryptocurrency. And that vision is still alive and kicking, but it's going to take a very long time to produce. We've also seen the evolution of crypto move from just currency to an investment vehicle, and obviously we've seen huge, tremendous growth around this use case. But I'm really here to say that I think we're right on the precipice and horizon of the next big phase, which is really migrating to a total social and economic platform and movement that will actually transform society. And when you look at these phases, they actually map really closely with this diagram of technological innovation, which Geoffrey Moore, who wrote a great book called Crossing the Chasm, produced. And it describes the different phases of a technology adoption and who participates in those phases. And so in the early days, this technology was very technology-driven, and we were very radical in our ideas. It was filled with disruptors, crypto-anarchist libertarians. I remember the first meetup I went to, it was 15 people in a park in downtown LA with 2 Silk Road drug dealers trading Bitcoins in the park on their laptops, all Linux. And then, obviously we've seen a tremendous growth in terms of investor interest. And I put investors in this early adopter category. They're not necessarily the disruptors, but they see the disruption and they invest themselves in it. They are early adopters. The next big phase of adoption is when we move beyond the investment phase and we move to actual daily usage of this technology. Now, the thing about this diagram is that each one of these buckets of people represents a very different demographic. And so far, we've gone through to part of the early adopter phase, but we have not yet really hit the early majority. And so, at GEM, we were really interested in figuring out, well, where are we exactly on this adoption curve? So we decided to do an actual survey, and we worked with Harris Poll just recently to complete a survey to figure out, what level of adoption do we have? And we found out that 8% of Americans currently invest in cryptocurrency. Now, 8% is not a huge number, but for a technology that's only been around for 10 years, it's actually pretty tremendous growth for a technology. So when we look at where 8% puts us, well, it's roughly here, a little past the middle of the early adopter phase. Now, that presents both good news and bad news. The good news is we can keep doing the exact same thing we're doing and probably almost double the existing market without actually making any major changes to the way we're going about business, and before we actually exhaust this pool of users. But the bad news is that we are coming very, very rapidly and sharply against the big chasm between the early adopters and the early majority. And here's the problem. All of the value that we need to capture is over on this side. When we get the early majority, we're talking about massive, massive growth. So we want to get there. We got to figure out how. The problem is that the users who are in that bucket are very different than the users who are in this room today. They're a much more diverse group. They have much different interests, and their tolerance for pain and bad user experience is extremely low. They want products that work extremely well right out of the gate, and they don't want to have to think about technology. So we wanted to dig a little bit deeper. What do these people look like? Well, certainly we've figured out that age plays a significant role. in our survey, we found that adults aged 35 to 54 are twice as likely to invest in crypto as somebody who's 65 and older. That's pretty obvious. I think we can all kind of get that. What's really surprising, I think, is that as you go down the chain to students, we're actually seeing tremendous growth. Roughly 18% of students at major universities are now holders of crypto, and I think that's tremendous because that's a huge opportunity for growth, and they're going to be here for a very long time. We know there's a gender gap. The gender gap is very significant in this industry. Only 8.5% of the users of crypto are female. And you can look at this as a problem. I look at this as a massive growth opportunity for crypto. Because if we can build products that appeal to women in this space, then the upside is unlimited. And this is an interesting one. The top 15 of the 15 of the top 25 distributed apps on the market are all in the gaming space. And you guys all recognize what this is? Everybody knows what this is? CryptoKitties? Okay. So when CryptoKitties first came out, I laughed at it. I was like, we've just went and invented one of the most significant technologies of our lifetime, and we're creating and breeding digital cats with it, and it's clogging up the network. But then I had this epiphany, and I realized that the people who were getting into CryptoKitties weren't necessarily the people who were getting into Ethereum and Bitcoin and other types of cryptocurrencies. Our VP of marketing is a female. She had never touched crypto before. She loves cats. And so she went and figured out Ethereum in order to buy a CryptoKitty. And now she works at a crypto company, and she is invested. So I think that, in a lot of ways, games are the gateway drug to technology because it softens the learning curve, and it introduces it in a very friendly and easy way. So, if we're going to cross the chasm, I really believe that we've got to target new audiences and new groups that aren't currently in. And where I would put our focus is in millennials and even younger in the Gen Z. I think there's the most growth opportunities there. I think if you can capture women in this market, then you have a huge advantage. And I think gamers are a really interesting market. And we just heard a talk on how games can be used on a blockchain. The fundamental challenge is that the actual technology that we use every day, it was created by techies for techies. And so we have this tremendous problem. Everything that we do is hard to understand. It's intimidating. The designs, when you look at all the products in the market, they're all very dark and futuristic. They're not very warm and inviting for a new audience. We need a design movement. And here's just some examples. These are some of the top crypto apps on the market. And just for example, the one on the top left, and I won't name names, but it's one of the most popular wallets in the entire market. The first thing you see when you go to the page, don't get fished in bright red lettering. This is not a very welcoming message to a new audience. This is very, very scary. And in general, you see very dark designs. It's very data-driven, not very visual. And then you have exchanges where a new user has no idea how to navigate. So we are doing our small part to try to introduce a new design language to the space. And we're launching a new consumer app. It's our first consumer app. It's an all-in-one cryptocurrency platform, all-in-one wallet, and crypto tracker built all into one platform to make a really easy-to-use experience for users. And I'd love to share with you this video to introduce the product for the first time. Well, I hope you like it. So I wanted to go a little bit further and actually explain to you some of the things that we're trying to introduce here more tangibly. So I think there's really three things that an app or a product or service needs to do to really invite this new audience in. One is you've got to be inviting. Most of the apps and services that are out there are not very inviting to new users. And I think you should not be afraid to have fun. If CryptoKitties taught me anything, it can bring in large audiences. And that's why we decided very distinctly to have a giant floating unicorn as our mascot. And what that did was it created this crazy community. We have our Telegram community with rabid fans. And the reason why they're fans is because they love the spirit of the app. They feel like this is a product that they can buy into. And we have probably 4 or 5 unicorn memes that are posted on our chat every day. People buy into the unicorn, and now the unicorn is theirs. So that also goes along with cultivating a community. I think if you're going to make a successful product in the space, you have to build around a community. You need to establish a fan base, and then the fan base ends up selling your product to the rest of the people. And the last one is really holding your customer's hand through this process. This is a very scary new industry for most people. You need to create design and UI that will walk the user through the steps. And I'll just give you a real tangible example. And I don't mean anything bad about these examples. This is a side-by-side comparison. This is one of the most popular portfolio trackers on the market. And I think they've done a tremendous job in terms of creating good design for the current user in crypto. But I think that there's a challenge here, which is that this is the first run experience for adding an asset to your portfolio. And if you're a brand new user, you don't understand half of what these fields represent, but you have to enter all of them in order to get that transaction in. So what we decided to do was do the exact opposite. We wanted to ask for almost no information. And our primary goal is not to make it the most accurate information, but rather to make it the easiest to use so that the user sees the value of the app within 30 seconds or less. And then we add this little line that says, don't worry about it, you can change it later. So they know that they can actually edit it later and make it more accurate. And then we've also added these 3D icons, which people say it's like candy for crypto enthusiasts. So hold your customer's hand. And this is a comment. This is one of our beta tester users who posted this onto Twitter with this exact screenshot, saying that she was obsessed with the UI. So I think it really pays off. Make it familiar. So Connie Yang, who's the director of design at Coinbase, recently wrote a blog post calling Design the Next Killer App for Crypto. And in it, she put a bunch of challenges that we all face and should address. One of them is around addresses, for example. So, we're very used to thinking of an address as a home address, 1234 Main Street. We've learned, over time to think of addresses on the phone system as phone numbers. And we had to learn, email, and that was a long process. I would argue that a Bitcoin address or any type of crypto address is so foreign to the user that it's just too scary to even get involved. So why are we presenting the user with these long addresses? Why can't we create a simpler system? Well, we've done the same thing. We don't use IP addresses to point to a website. We use DNS names to point to websites, which are human-readable names that point to some very complex number underneath. So why can't we create, a similar type of DNS resolving system that resolves with a regular plain name to Bitcoin addresses or any type of other address under the hood? And so we're working to put that into our products. And finally, make it tangible. Crypto is a very esoteric concept for a lot of people. It's completely digital, it's completely foreign. So if we can make it relate to things that are actually in the real world, if we can give it weight, give it presence in the real world, the physical world, I really feel like this is a way to bridge the user to this new world. And so we've decided to create a full 3D design strategy where every object has a tangible weight in the app, and when you interact with it, you feel it tactically. So these are just some examples of our tangible design. And surprisingly, people love the bubbles. So that's been a lot of fun. So in summary, Gem makes investing fun and delightful. We're trying to bring a new design language to crypto. We hope that you also bring this design language to your apps and your services so that we can really start to cross the chasm for crypto. And if you'd like to try it out, join our portfolio beta. The portfolio is live in beta. We'll be adding the wallet later this year. So thank you very much.
All right, Micah, Gem, very cool.